Leon Edwards is a bitch. The UFC Welterweight Champion of the world is a bitch. The man that knocked out Kamaru Usman, the pound for pound king, the long-time Welterweight Champion of the world is nothing but a bitch. Don't come at me. That's not me. That is not my words. That is the words of Ian, the future Garry. Of course, until recently, they were kind of training partners, but there's been a little bit of drama. Ian Garry has been kicked out of Team Renegade, which of course is the home gym of the one and only Leon Edwards. So here's the actual statement. I'll just read this out to you from Ian Garry. He said, Leon and his head coach had an issue with me training on the mats and recently asked me not to train there because Leon doesn't want any securities or doubts on his own mats within the gym. I get that we're both in the top 10 and you might see me as a threat, but I'm not a threat to you right now. I'm not fighting for the title right now. His coach said the words, Ian is a threat. I cannot have Leon having any doubts or insecurities. I'll give you some more thoughts on it in just a second. Here is what the coach said. This was the reasoning for throwing Ian Garry out of the gym. And just recently, yesterday, at the weigh-ins here in Sao Paulo, talking to Gilbert Burns, that was when Ian Garry said to Gilbert Burns, Leon's a bitch. That's why he's asked me to leave the gym. So
because Leon's a bitch and kicked me out of the gym.
Ian's actually doing a really good job of marketing himself towards a rivalry and a potential title shot against Leon Edwards. I mean, a lot of drama, a lot of backstory, personal beef, and Ian Garry is absolutely flying. Of course, he's got a tough fight coming up against Vicente Luque. But here is what the coach said regarding the situation. He said, sometimes the coaches allow fighters to come in from the outside, but this is very much a privilege and not the norm. If the coaches feel like it's not adding to the team's culture, a fighter is refused entrance. Ian Garry's more nomadic approach and preparation has given him great results, but it's not in line with what we are creating at Team Renegade. This has nothing to do with one specific fighter or a specific coach. So, read between the lines. It says to me that Ian Garry and Leon Edwards are not getting along, right? Ian thinks it's because they see him as a threat and he says that he's not a threat. Well, he is a threat. Let's be honest. He's fighting Vicente Luque on the same fight card that Leon Edwards is defending the title against Colby Covington. Now, for one, I can't wait for that press conference. That's going to be ridiculous. Colby always brings it. He's very, very entertaining. Vicente Luque and Ian Garry are going to be on the main card. They're going to be going at each other as well, Garry and Leon. And then, of course, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov. We've got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. That press conference is going to be ridiculous. But let's talk about this. The reality is in mixed martial arts, and I had a quick chat with Ian Garry yesterday and got his thoughts. He said, listen, you want to train with the best people possible. And that's absolutely true. When I was fighting, I would spend a lot of money paying for flights, flying fighters in, training partners, wrestlers from Canada, so on and so forth, because you need the best training possible, okay? And sometimes in the gym where you train, they don't have that. So you got to pay flights, hotels, and you got to pay them a wage. You got to pay them a fee for giving up their time and coming to you. So if you've got somebody like Ian Garry that's going to come in and train there for free, then that's a bonus. But the reality is, Ian Garry, as I said before, is on a trajectory where if he beats Vicente Luque and probably one more fight, I mean, we're talking a title eliminator. If he beats Vicente, the next fight's probably a title eliminator. And if Leon Edwards is still the champ, and he's got a really good chance of beating Colby Covington, I favour him in that matchup. But if he's still the champ, then they're going to fight one another. So I guess Team Renegade, their thoughts, or maybe, look, listen, we don't want to be showing him our secrets. We don't want him getting a feel for you. We don't want him figuring out how you defend takedowns or what combinations you like and how you train and all the rest of it. We don't want to teach him all the lessons that you learned to become the champion and then help him out and help him take your title, right? That's probably what it is, right? And I understand that. I do understand that because soon they are going to be competitors. There's a good chance of that. But also, maybe they just don't get along. You know what I mean? In Leon's defense, you know, not everyone gets along with everybody. You know, fighters are hard-headed, hard-nosed, tough people, you know. And generally in the mixed martial arts community, most people get along, you know. And you recognize the value that one another bring to the table. But if you're not getting along, if there's a little bit of drama, and let's be honest, I'm a fan of Ian Garry. He's the cockiest son of a bitch you will ever meet. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's be honest. I was very cocky, and most fighters are. You got to believe in yourself. And Ian Garry is undefeated, and he's going through people with relative ease. So he is the cocky son of a bitch. And he should be, as I said. So maybe that doesn't vibe with Leon's vibe. maybe they don't mix too well. Because Leon's a very humble guy. From what I've seen of him, he's very humble. He's a man of few words, does all of his talking inside the octagon. But the bigger picture is maybe they don't get along, or maybe they know this guy's going to be a threat down the line. So he's at the weightings yesterday. He's with Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns asked him what the issue was, and he said, listen, Leon Edwards is a bitch. Now, he's not a bitch. He's far from a bitch, but that's actually genius of Ian Garry. This little drama here, right? Him not being allowed to train with him, he's spinning this and turning it into a rivalry, into a personal beef, and now he's calling him a bitch publicly. What's that going to do? It's going to create drama, it's going to create tension, and it's more importantly, got to create public demand for this fight, right? Of course, Leon's going to get through Colby. Now, Colby has a very similar style to Kamaru Usman. So one would assume on paper that he will defend against Colby and he will do it in impressive fashion. I think Kamaru is probably stronger, but the pace of Colby Covington is relentless. It's non-stop. It's takedown after takedown. Lots of hand combinations, mixes things up fantastically. But we haven't seen Colby since the Jorge Masvidal fight. So as he aged, as he slowed down, this is a big opportunity for Colby Covington though, and probably the last chance he's going to have at getting a shot at becoming the welterweight champ. Colby's had a great career, but he's lost 2 title fights already to Kamaru Usman. Third, that's tough to get, and he's got it. A fourth is going to be really, really hard. So expect the best version of Colby Covington. Now, for Leon Edwards, he's just going to take this in his stride. He's going to try and not give too much credit or awareness to Ian Garry. Ian's gone full rival on him. He's calling him a bitch. He's talking shit, and that's just going to hype this up. And we know, listen, the UFC, they will put on the fights that people want to see. Could you imagine if Ian Garry beats Vicente Luque, which, by the way, isn't a given? That is not a given at all. That's a tough matchup. But if he does, and Leon wins, hypothetical situations, 2 fights down the line, they do Leon Edwards, Ian Garry for the welterweight title, either in Dublin or in London. That would be ridiculous. Talk about a fan-pleasing event for British and UK mixed martial art fans. That would be unbelievable. And for Irish, of course, My bad. But yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think Ian Garry's doing the right thing? Do you think he's not showing any loyalty? Or do you think he's doing what he should do, to be honest? And it sounds like I'm taking his side. I'm not. In mixed martial arts, you've got to be selfish, right? You've got to think about number one. And that's what Team Renegade are doing. They're thinking about their champion. And maybe the cultures don't meet, and maybe the personalities don't match and all the rest of it. But they've got to put the champ first. And Ian Garry's going to put himself first. Mixed martial arts is a selfish sport. Go around, be a nomad. They said that. They said the nomadic approach that Ian Garry has doesn't really vibe with their culture. And I understand that, because you do want to see some loyalty. But also, Ian Garry's smart because he's here in Brazil. He's been training. He's going all over the place, picking up as many skills and tips as you can. A lot of coaches, when somebody trains with them for a long time, they can show them everything they know. I think it's kind of rinse and repeat. So you want to bring in guest coaches, you want to bring in fighters, you want to bring in specialists to learn more things. Ian Garry's been a nomad, being a ronin is what they call it in Japanese terms. He's been a ronin, he's going around, he's picking up as much information from different coaches, different fighters, different training rooms, seeing how they prepare over there. How do these do it here? How are these guys so good at this one thing? And that's it. Variety is the spice of life. But loyalty is also a very, very important thing. So I'm not taking sides in this one. I'm wishing Leon all the best against Colby Covington. It's going to be a great fight. UFC 296. Can't wait for that one. I'll be in England though. I'll be in Manchester on December 16th for Tales from the Octagon 2, going down live at the Apollo Theatre in Manchester. Get your tickets at myticket.co.uk. I'll have Tom Aspinall on stage. Hopefully, the newly crowned heavyweight champion. We'll have Paul Craig. He's going to be on there as well. And we've got some surprise guests lined up as well. And it's the perfect pre-party for UFC 296. Come out, we'll talk about the fights, we'll talk about Paddy's return, we'll talk about Leon, Colby, Ian Garry, all of it. And then we're going to go find somewhere to watch the fights. We'll hear from Tom Aspinall and Paul Craig. We'll have a laugh, we'll have some beers, we'll do a Q&A, we'll do a meet and greet, and then we're going to find somewhere to watch the fight. So, myticket.co.uk. But above all that, what do you think? Is Ian Garry in the right here? Is he creating drama that he doesn't need to? Or is it all fair in love and war? Because you've got to be selfish in this sport. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe and ring the bell. See you soon.